So hello, my name is Bev from Redeem the Time for Life, and welcome to a Rise and Shine interview series. And I'm really excited about this series, and I've brought some friends with me, and we're going to be talking about schooling and schooling at home. We know that this is a really different time in terms of we're all in Ontario, and we're going to be moving to either a hybrid system where people are going to have the option to keep their kids at home or to send their kids to school, or do both, depending on if they're in high school or elementary. And so I thought we'd get together with some friends that are homeschoolers like myself in order to help you along the path if we can. So I've got Desiree over here on to my right, your left. I've got Lori. Wave to the people there, Lori. And then I've got Dinah as well. And I've got Marcinia. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off with just having them tell you a little bit about themselves so you can get to know who we are. And then we're going to get started. So Desiree, I'll just have you get going.
Sure. Hi, my name is Desiree. I am a homeschooler of 10 years now. I have 5 kids, and their grade levels range from grade 8 all the way down to senior kindergarten. I've been doing this, like I said, for 10 years, and I got into this not on purpose. Actually, it was told to me by my husband that I think we should homeschool. And when he said that, I'm like, who's going to do that? You or me? And I wasn't warm to the idea to begin with, but as I did the research, I fell in love with the idea of being able to influence my children from the very beginning. So that's how my homeschooling journey started.
Awesome. So Lori, what about you? How did your homeschooling journey start, and your ages of your kids and the grades that they're in?
Well, like Desiree, this was not the plan. We have children ages 10 down through 3. So we still have very young ones, and I am actually a professional teacher. So when the youngest one was ready for school, I was adamant that she needed to go to school, she needed to be socialized. And she came home with a lot of stuff that we didn't teach her. So when we got pregnant with the second one, I thought, okay, I could take an extended leave and keep her home. And 4 children later, we've been extending leaves, and I've kept them home. So they've been home with me during that time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lori. Dinah, what about you?
Well, we're going into our 5th year of homeschooling, and like the other ladies, definitely wasn't the plan.
Okay.
My kids are 16, 12, 8, and 4. The 2 older ones were in school, and they had a lot of difficulty. No behavioral problems. It was mostly academic, so they weren't failing, but they weren't excelling. And the teachers really didn't have any solutions, did all kinds of things, volunteered at school, got assessments done. And they basically looked at me and said, we don't know what else to do. So my husband looked at me and said, what about homeschooling? And I'm like, what about it? Why would I do something like that? That's for like really smart people, elite people, and that's not me. And then I met great people like Desiree and lots of other great homeschool moms that really helped me understand what homeschooling was. And so it's been, we're going into our 5th year. And I was only intending to homeschool up to grade 8. And then after that, my oldest says, can we do one more year? Can we do one more year? Now she's going to grade 11. And we're still at it. But it's been a good journey. We've seen some great results so far, but definitely not how we intended it, but definitely working out to our benefit.
Right. Thank you, Dinah. Okay, Marcinia, what about you?
Hi.
Hi.
So we've got 4, ages 9 to 2, and we've always homeschooled, but it wasn't something that we initially wanted to do right away. We had friends that were actually homeschoolers, and when they told us that they were homeschooling, we had pretty much all the criticism that there was. You're secluding them, you're sheltering them, to learn about, the world and all of that. Pretty much all the usual thoughts that people would usually have about homeschooling. But here we are, and we're actually homeschooling. It was just after looking at the options, we decided that that was what was best for our family, and to be able to impart our faith on them as well was a big reason as to why we decided to homeschool them.
Awesome. And then my name is Bev, and I have 3 children. So from grades 8 to grades 3. And I have one in the school system that I pulled out of the school system for 3 years, and I homeschooled him for 3 years, and he's back into the school system. And the other 2, my younger 2, I've homeschooled from the beginning. So I've been homeschooling for about 5 years. And my journey in homeschooling was not intentional in the least. So it just sort of happened that way. And I also happen to be single parenting. So I can represent and speak to those that might be single parents looking to maybe go into that route. I can speak to that because I'm doing it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who we are. So stay tuned as we're going to launch into some different topics. The first topic that we'd like to start talking about is embracing the pause. So we're coming out of a season of a global pause. And so what we thought we'd like to talk about is, we're clearly coming out of one season and going into another season. And so how that kind of impacted us or is going to impact us as our children are going to be going into a new schooling year. So I thought we'll start off talking about that. So Dinah, can you just tell us and sort of start off the topic and your thoughts about and how you embrace the pause, or what does that even mean, embracing the pause?
So like you said, we have this global pandemic where we've never really seen in our history, where the world is literally on pause. If we go back a couple months where we're in lockdown and the only place you could really go is the grocery store, right? And then you just gone back. Extracurriculars were gone. Whether you were sending your kids out to school or you were homeschooling, everything literally was just on pause and you couldn't do anything. So you're forced to spend a lot more time at home, and it's like pushing the pause button on life and you're moving almost in slow motion. So you have the time to now look and observe and see what's going on. It's the reason why a lot of people are renovating their home, because you're in your house a little longer going, oh, those grapes are old. Or why does that look like that? Because we were going so quickly. We're in this microwave age, this digital age where you're going. And finally it's like, pause, just stop. And now you're able to see. So my original, I had a different kind of pause when I started homeschooling. So I had my 3rd child, and he was a few months old, and then I found out I was pregnant again. And so right after that pregnancy, by the time I hit that 5th month in the pregnancy, I'd actually lost that baby. So now I'm to the point where I don't know what I'm home. I have this newborn baby. I have these 2 kids in school, and I'm not going back to work because I thought I was pregnant again, lost this baby, and then my whole life is now on pause. And I'm just sitting there at home with these babies. And then I start to see different things going on. Now I'm picking up my kids from school when school is actually open, because I'm not picking them up from the aftercare program right at 6 o'clock because I'm rushing from work. And I'm seeing things that are happening. I'm noticing the dark circles around my daughter's eyes. I'm noticing her more crying in the morning that she doesn't want to go to school. Why I didn't notice that before? Probably because it was so early. She was still sleeping. But now that she had a little time to sleep in, a lot of things started to come to light. And I realized, okay, something is going on here. But had those things not happened to me, I would not be able to kind of pause and take a look around my surroundings and even my children and realize something is profoundly wrong. And we need to start to dig deeper. And so I was able to maximize this moment of pause, maximize this moment of slowing down to really see what's happening with my children, really see what's happening with my parenting. How do I parent when I'm not rushing much? How do I speak to children when there's not another activity to go to? And that really was the beginning of my pause. So when we got into this massive pause where the whole world is now not able to do anything, it was another opportunity for me to see, okay, what are we doing? Is this working? Is it not working? What more can I do? And it really, again, another eye opener to see where I can go from here, how I can make things, good, go from good to better to best.
So what about you, Desiree? What are your thoughts on that? How did you experience the pause?
I mean, it took a little while to be okay with it, to be honest, because like Dinah was saying, we're so accustomed to just going, and not really, taking time to process what's going on, even internally. And so at the beginning of this whole shutdown, I was not okay. Because for the first time, I had to actually look at things and not be able to run away from them. Like, again, Dinah was saying the only place we could really go was like the grocery store. And if I tell you how many times I made excuses to go to the grocery store, I mean, just because I didn't want to.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't want to be home and deal with a lot of things. But now now we're 5-6 months in, I can say that we are better for it because we had no choice. We had to, as a family, work through very tough things that were just being swept under the rug because we didn't have time to deal with them. I have had a chance to look at myself and habits and things that were lacking. And now I've had the time to work on those things and develop those skills that I didn't really have a need to develop at the time. And so I think this pause, while, there was a lot of tragic death and that kind of stuff, I think overall it's been a productive and beneficial time for a lot of people, and myself and my family included.
Okay. So Marcy, what about you?
For us, I think, again, as homeschoolers, we're kind of always thinking that we have to stuff our time. About it from like a public school perspective or wherever it is. And I know Dinah's always looking at me, she's like, they don't really do nothing. They don't really do much. But I'm always thinking like, my kids gotta be like with curriculums and extracurricular. So we're kind of always going in co-op and everything. And so when all those things were kind of taken away, I started to realize that we didn't need to do all those things. And didn't necessarily need all of that. Every day, all the time, kind of going, you know what I mean? So that was a big thing for me as well. Even just like inviting Leanne in the kitchen with me, I used to get kind of frustrated and irritated, like, oh my God, this is going to take me forever. But we had nowhere to go. There wasn't to run to, right?
Right.
We got to spend that time, and I realized how much she does enjoy it, right? And the kids, again, are spending more time with each other. And then for us, like having my husband home and working from home, the shift and the adjustment and having to learn to kind of adjust and work around each other. That was us learning and growing together and learning to be aware of what other people's needs are. And just altogether, it's been good for me personally. Like Desiree kind of said, we start looking at ourselves as well and working on us and building us. And so that's been like a great thing for me right now as well during the pandemic, is that I'm starting to work on a lot of things internally for myself as well.
I kind of get the picture as you guys are talking about, in the planes where they have the little video come on at first, and you have to put if there's a loss in oxygen or pressure, you have to put your oxygen mask on first,
right?
And then you put on those that can't help themselves. So that's kind of the picture that that came to me as you were speaking. Is it really forced us to take that look at ourselves? I'm not good, they're not good. Type of thing. Lori, what are some of your thoughts in terms of the pause, and did you embrace it, and how did it go for you?
Well, as you use that analogy of the oxygen mask, I feel like I put mine on last week. We came into the lockdown under very different circumstances. We had an elderly who was ill, and we made the choice to relocate temporarily so that we could assist in the care of this person. And we went through that for a couple of months, where I had 4 children and an elderly, and different dynamics of not being in my own home. And then a couple of months later, she passed. So we've been moving through a lot of different things that had nothing to do with homeschool. And I got to the point where I was starting to not starting to crack, it's starting to come apart.
Mm.
And what I realized in the last couple of weeks is that I need to take more control of that, because my children are seeing that and those around me are dealing with that. And while things are still very much out of control for us, there are areas where I can be more intentional. So I've been more intentional about the amount of time I'm spending in God's word, which was the key part that I was missing and I was struggling with. And with that, I've been able to let go. I was like, okay, I was very intentional about, okay, the girls are going to be doing some schooling through the summer. They're not going to be just hanging out. They're not going to just, and last week we're like, we're going for a walk. And being outside changed everything. I'm not worried about them breaking things in a house that doesn't belong to me. There's grass, there's trees, there's just go. And I've been able to breathe, and they are, the smiles on their faces and the joy that they're experiencing tells me that I need to have them out there more. And they were doing that already, but I needed to see that as well. So that stop, that moment to just stop and think and see, and the observing that we're all doing when we're forced to just, okay, you don't have anywhere else to go. So stop and look, open your eyes and see. And I'm seeing just how important that is, the time with God for myself, the lessons that I am not missing as much of because I'm now slowing down. So lessons with them, to be able to instruct them in different seasons. My daughter had a moment, I hope she doesn't mind me telling this, last week where she started to make some cornbread. She was all excited. She's got these recipes down. Her father said, don't write it down. I want you to memorize it. And she ended up putting condensed milk in instead of evaporated milk. And when she realized it, she stopped, and just the tears, she was just devastated. But after she had a conversation with myself, with her father, I reminded her of a book that she had read where the young girl accidentally put salt instead of sugar into her and she started to laugh. Mom, I needed that. And those are the moments where I needed to be moving slowly enough to not get upset and not panic that we've wasted yet another can of something and laugh about it. So now that I'm breathing a little better, then I can be intentional about them a little more.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for that, ladies. And I think one of the keys that I'm pulling out of what you're saying is, it was a pause, it was a global pause. And whether we embraced it at the beginning or not, I think a lot of people now, or most people now at this point, are starting to say, okay, well, I guess we were in pause. So it doesn't matter sort of where you were on that spectrum. Is take some time, as Lori had mentioned, in the Word. That's the key to this whole thing. That's the key to life, and that's certainly the key for whatever schooling that you're going to choose. You need to speak to God about that. And so how did you decide? So for example, so embracing this pause, Dinah, so are there any decisions that you're going to be making differently in terms of your homeschooling for September that you got during the pause?
So I've been incorporating these pauses or these breaks since in the beginning of the homeschooling. So I get to about spring and early spring, and I'd really take time to stop and to observe my children. Sometimes I just sit there and I literally just watch them. I just sit there and I look at them and see what they're doing and look at their work, because honestly, by the time they get past like March break, wherever they're at, that's where they're going to be at. And that's okay. There's not going to be a huge, for my kids, there's not usually a huge jump or a huge change, but it gives me a good picture of what's going on. What do they actually like? And I ask them, what do you guys like? What do you don't like? What do you want to see again? So really, it reminded me again to take it a little bit more seriously and take it up a notch, to really ask them, guys, what do you want to see? What do you want to do? Now, I have the kind of children that will take it all the way. And they'll say all kinds of crazy things. But they're kids, they're allowed to do that. So one of the things, but the biggest takeaway for me with this pause has been remembering that they're kids. Don't forget our kids. So I had this conversation with a mom, not a homeschooler, kind of thrust into this. She's working from home, has kids under 10. She's super overwhelmed, and she feels like she needs to send them back to school in September, regardless of what's happening with the pandemic. Schools are opening, they need to go, because she said she doesn't feel that she can do them justice. And I said to her, you've got to remember that these kids are kids. If this pandemic was overwhelming for us as adults who have more filters and have more self-control, imagine kids. Their routine was just pulled from right underneath them. And routine for a lot of kids, as much as they're not going to admit it, it is their security,
For
right?
sure.
So you take that away, they automatically, almost instinctively start acting up. They don't know better. You know, the Bible says that foolishness is actually bound in the heart of a child. There's a reason for that. And so when I keep that in mind, that as well as childhood is the shortest period of time in your life. For parents, it seems like the longest time. But if you look at the lifespan of a person, your childhood is like that much time. It's like when you have a newborn baby and they're waking up, like my first wanted to be fed every 2 hours for the first 6 months. Yeah, it felt like an eternity. But she's 16 now. So when I look back to that and I hear newborn mothers with newborns, I think you'll be all right. It's bad. But when you're in the thick of it, it's hard and you can't think of anything else, and you just
outside.
You folks gotta go. You need to go to school. Somebody need to take care of you because I'm about to blow a gasket. But we're not used to this. They're not used to it. And I had to really keep that in mind. Yes, we homeschooled, and we, of course, like a lot of you women, you probably heard the same thing. Oh, you guys must be used to it because you homeschool. No, homeschooling never includes isolation. So the fact that my kids couldn't see their friends outside of the computer, they couldn't go out and I couldn't just call one of you ladies and say, let's go to the park, let's go to the library, let's do this. There was no spontaneity. We couldn't do anything. It was frustrating. And I would say to them, well, just go on the computer, just do this, just do that. No, it's hard for them. They are children. So let's remember that they are kids and they're trying to adapt the way that we are trying to adapt. And their self-control and their filters that they have are not fully developed yet. So with the understanding, so part of my pause was understanding kids all over again. Not just kids, my kids.
Okay, got it.
Going to be different from my kids and how they react. So if they're all of a sudden your kids are acting crazy, don't think it's strange, right? They're trying to cope that too.
Right. Yeah. So Desiree, I'm going to move to you. So your one takeaway during this pause, like what did you learn?
Similarly to Dinah, that the kids, well, I'm going to say not just that they're kids, that they're people. And we all, like basically what you said, we all experience emotions. And I learned, like just from talking to my kids, like for instance, I have 3 out of my 5 children had birthdays within the pandemic lockdown.
Right.
So I have a 13-year-old. So we do big birthday parties, 13, 10, and 5, and 1. And those are and so I had a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old this year.
Wow.
And so they were all expecting really big parties with all their friends. And of course that couldn't happen. And when I sat with them and talked to them, I realized how deeply they actually were feeling about this too. They felt, almost slighted. They're like, I hate coronavirus. It ruined my life. My friends. But the thing that I learned about this is that we basically have to give each other grace, and we need to be compassionate towards each other. And in terms of what I'm going to do differently this time after all of this and school starts, is that take it a little bit slower.
Okay.
It's not a race. It's not a sprint.
Right. It's not.
We have time. The kids are going to grow up. We can't control that part, but we can control the type of relationship that we establish with them. And for me, I was losing sight of relationship and focusing heavily on academics. You have to do this. We have to keep up with this. Oh, you're a little bit behind. So for me, this time around, I'm going to be focusing more heavily on building a relationship with academics, of course. But academics is not the most important thing at the moment, especially as I'm a teenage mom. I'm a mom of a teenager now. Pray for me. I don't know how this is going to look.
This is going to be okay.
Right? Exactly what I was going to say.
I see what you did there. But So basically, yeah, that's what I've learned from this whole time and pause is that relationships are important. And while
Huge.
academics are important, relationships, if you don't have a good relationship with your kids, they're not going to learn from you anyway.
No, go learn.
No, they ain't going to learn. They're going to learn your sin, but not just.
So
yeah.
Lori and Marcy, I want you to comment now, not on what you learned about your kids, but even just for yourself. Like, so as the moms, you're going to speak to the moms now, giving some from your experience. What do you think was the thing that you learned during this season that you can encourage moms I should say.
Sydney, you want to go with that?
I mean, I know you said moms, right? But because we're kind of forced again to take that pause, to take that minute, and there's a lot of introspection happening, and you're reflecting and you're looking at yourself and you're seeing, okay, I need to change this, I need to brush up on that. Just like the kids, I think when the pandemic started, it was a lot of like, I don't want to do this. Why is everything stopped? And being able to kind of go again keeps you from looking at you, right? So now that it stopped and you're looking at you, you're seeing the things that you can adjust. Also, I know for me personally, like I said, there's a lot of me realizing the things in my life where I'm broken. And working through those things. Realizing that I needed to spend time with God in the morning before I started my day was another big thing that I learned, because I would kind of just get up, my kids would wake me up and I would just kind of roll into the day. But then because again, we don't have anywhere to kind of get up and rush and go to, I was able to get up and to make that time in the morning for myself, quiet time. Became really important. And when I did miss it, I realized how much it affected my day. I was cranky, I was miserable. But when I had that peaceful moment, because I'm always trying to make that moment happen in the day, right? I'm always trying to interject it in the day as we're going, but like the day kind of belongs to us and the kids and schooling and, doing the things that we need to do. So me trying to force it in there was kind of like, it was hard. Like I was trying to take time away from them that they needed. And then I wasn't always present because I was always trying to find that time in the day for myself. And it really wasn't going to happen. Honestly, for me, it wasn't going to happen because they're kids and they're small.
Yeah.
Especially with Josiah and Leanne, they always want to be with me. And they always wanted to do something with me. So for me, taking that time, adjusting myself to realizing, hey, this is what I need to be able to get through the day. I need some quiet time, whether it was to like sit with a big cup of coffee and just kind of listen to my music, get that quiet time and pray and just kind of release everything that I needed to. All my stress, let it all go in the morning, get all that I had on my thoughts and on my mind off in the morning, write it down. And then I was kind of able to be at peace and ease throughout the day. I had moments, but it was more of a peaceful day instead of like this crazy roller coaster of emotions that I was facing, right? So that was a big thing for me, is recognizing that I needed time for me, and just that would be able to help me to ease through my day a little bit better.
Fantastic. So Lori, bring us home.
Oh, well, to piggyback on what Marcinia was saying, that time for ourselves, when I started reading a book by Lisa Turkhurst about the best yes, and it slapped me a few times when she stated that you have to take a look at your time. And I sat and looked and realized that 95% of my day is on my children. And I had no time for me and no time for my husband and no time for anything else. And that hurt, because as a mom, you feel like that's your responsibility to take care of your children. But you have to realize that they're a portion of your life. They're not all of your life. And as mothers, we need to give ourselves permission to not be perfect. No need for us to be perfect. It's not in our DNA. It is not the requirement. We are moms. We make mistakes, and that's okay. Our children are a major part of our lives. It's not the only part of our lives. We were married. Our husbands need to still be a part of the picture, and we have to be a part of our picture. And learning that slowly, albeit, I'm
Mhm.
learning that that has to be a priority. I have to take time to do things that God has given me the talents for. You know,
Mhm.
I've been able to do more crocheting now that I've got a little more time on my hands. I'm hoping to start posting those and start perhaps selling some things. I've been doing some more sewing. I've taught the girls to sew. They all had little projects where they sewed these little pillows and they're so proud of themselves. We need to give ourselves permission to not always have to be doing something, to be allowed to sit down during the day for a half an hour, not do anything, to sit in the backyard on a lawn chair and watch the children play and not feel like I should be doing something. I should be preparing for dinner. I should be cleaning up, folding laundry. Just no, just give ourselves permission to just be and enjoy what's going on around us. I had the pleasure of looking at my daughter take her grandfather's phone and make this long recording of some songs that they created. They wrote some songs and they all recorded them. But she did them while with the background of the nature in the backyard.
Mm.
Well, I looked at it, I thought, is that a picture that you found online and that you put your voices on top of? She said, no, that's the backyard. She has a great eye for photography. And she's got an aunt who's a photographer who would be great in leading her in that direction. So these are things that you're able to see when you just stop and slow down and allow things to be and not worry so much about being perfect, not worry so much about everything falling into place, but just allowing God to use you in whatever way He needs to. And I'm still learning. So,
And we all are, and that's a great conclusion. And so we just like to encourage you, mom or dad, if you're watching this video, we've talked about embracing the pause, and he has equipped you to do whatever it is that he's calling you to do. So whether you decide to, if you're in Ontario, send your kids back to school, so be it. May the Lord cover and protect your children. If you're choosing to keep them home, we're going to be talking about a few more topics over the rest of August, just addressing. And as you can see, really, you just need to relax. What you have in you already, you are already equipped to do. If you're going to choose to keep them home, you're ready to equipped to do that. If you're going to be sending them to school, you're equipped to do that as well. So he has assigned those children to you. They're yours. And you are equipped to do what you need to do with your kids. So thanks, Desiree, Dinah, Marcia, and Lori. And we'll talk again with you guys real soon. Take care.